with reviewing Eternals along with a couple people. I think I have Dan Murrell as one of these people, and then somebody else as well. I forget who, but we're gonna listen to a few of these reviews today, and we're gonna see, well, did they hold to their convictions? Did they not do what I said that might have done just because they're big Dune fans? Did they criticize this movie unfairly and let Dune slide? I'm very curious to find out. So that's what we're going to do. So let's do that now. Let's do that right now. That's my music. Let's see. Okay, yes. So I have two reviews here. This guy's more of a critic. He is more of a traditional critic. He's one of those, oh yes, the arts, movies, things like that type of stuff. Just I clap at the end of movies, like that snooty type. So he's very knowledgeable about movies. Okay, so we have this type of a review, and then we have a very layman's review, right? Maybe not a casual guy, but a little bit more than casual. Penguins Zero, Moist Critical, I believe his name is. We're going to see his review. Now, his are usually quick, short, and to the point. Dan Murrell, again, being a critic, he is more of a person who actually criticizes the movie and breaks it down and things. So I'll go through both, and I don't really want to hit any spoilers. So if they do spoilers, I won't cover that. I'll watch it later on my own. And I'm going to try to avoid spoilers as well. But, I mean, this is a movie you should be seeing right away. So let's start with Moist Critical. Let's start with this one. It's short, quick, sweet, fast.
Creating moisture.
I'm curious. I don't remember what he gave Dune. I think.
Welcome to the Moist Meter. Today we're taking a look at the newest Marvel movie, Eternals. This one had a lot of bad press around it. People saying this is the worst one ever made before it came out.
I'm already annoyed. I'm already annoyed. WWE dumb releases, Eternals being criticized unnecessarily bad. I'm already annoyed. We'll do it every time. Every time I do one of these reports. Every time. And I get annoyed, we're pulling out the incense. We gotta relax. We gotta get centered. We gotta get zen. Okay? We gotta get zen. I will tell you, the week I've had has been very, appeasing to me because, I mean, big projects got done. It was just a really good week. My students are amazing. Freaking love my job. It's all fun. And then you come home after watching a movie and you get on Twitter and you're like, I hate social media. I hate social media. And if I wasn't doing this streaming thing, I would have deleted Twitter just as fast as I deleted Facebook. Bon voyage, au revoir, sayonara, arrivederci. Get the out of my life, Facebook and Twitter. But I need Twitter. We need Twitter. We need at least something. Otherwise, I would not have knowledge about wrestling things, and that would be really bad. Okay, rant over. I forget why I was ranting.
At a lower Rotten Tomato scores than usual. Fucking DEF CON.
My mom's calling. friends, people. It's the obligatory answer, right? You just do 38-0 at halftime for Utah. Okay, it's the obligatory answer of the phone call. I mean, the only time I don't answer the phone to my mother is if I'm in the shower, meaning I can't like I'm not gonna get my phone wet. It's already cracked to hell. It's already bad. Or when I'm in the movie and it's playing, right? I'm not gonna answer the phone. And when I'm driving, I don't mess with my phone when I'm driving. I'll change the music. That's it. Here we go. Review of Eternals Moist Critical. Oh no, I hit a bad button. What did I hit? Okay, we're good.
Alerts were sounding, people going into full meltdown mode, shitting on it before it came out, or defending it before it came out without any of them ever seeing it.
I'm pretty, I'll say that I was affected by the reviews. When I heard that the reviews were bombing, I was like, oh no, it's just going to be boring. So while I was in the movie, there was a lot of things that were happening where I was like, oh, okay, never mind. Okay, we're good. And then I went, oh, in my head trying to go, oh, this is why I got a bad review. And then every time that something would go that route, and I was like, oh, it's going to do that, it would pop back up. That's my experience throughout the movie.
So it was pandemonium on Twitter. I went into this expecting...
As always, by the way, tonight we will have a new segment of the show called Ticked Off Tweet. We're going to hashtag it, and we're gonna do it, and I'm going to throw out a tweet, and I'm going to throw it to something, to Twitter, to just try to piss somebody off. I want somebody to be upset and mad at me because I want to get a ticked off tweet. So we'll do that a little bit later. That's a new segment that we're going to be debuting. But let's continue.
It to not be great because I don't know anything about the Eternals or any of that shit. I thought the trailer was okay, just some more generic Marvel stuff. Now, after having sat through the movie, I can tell you that I was 100% right. It was just some more generic Marvel stuff. I don't think it was bad. I don't think it was great either. It's a movie where I watched it, and I'll probably...
I did research. The Fly is still here. I did research. It's not one day. It's like 7 to 10, something like that. And it's still here. And I'm starting to like just kind of be annoyed, right? You hate something and then it's around so much that you're just like, I'll tolerate you. So I'm tolerant of The Fly at this point.
I never think about it again. I like the concept of the movie. I'm a sucker for like space shit and celestials and gods and all of that, and that plays a huge role in this movie without giving anything away. So I love the ideas of the movie, but the execution is kinda doggy ass at points.
At points, maybe I would agree. There's a few things that I go, but I buy into it because what they do correctly, they do really, really, really good. So we'll see. I can see people though, not me because I loved it, but I can see people sharing the sentiment that it was generic. But to me, I was like, no.
I don't think it's like ever like horrible, like laughably bad or anything, but like there's some really rough CGI moments that a lot of people were also picking out before it came out that is present in the final film during some of the fights. It gets real noodly where some of the characters like stretching all over the place out of nowhere, fucking spaghettifying. So like, yeah, there's definitely some silly moments like that,
which is fine. That's fair, right? If the CGI is a little goofy, whatever. But like leagues and bounds better than the CGI that you would get like in a Venom movie. The CGI in Dune was amazing. Really, really good. Technically, I would even say better than Eternals. The CGI, yes. But when it does this stuff, it's like, whatever. Like Shazam, like, whatever. Like, they used some practical effects for his suit and stuff. But to me, CGI, like, Minecraft is a great game. And it's a 1x1 block, like, type game. Like, it's, like, very pixelated. But it's a great game. So, me, CGI does count. But not for much. And if it's bad, sometimes that can be good. Sometimes it makes the movie unintentionally funny. But when it's really good, like in Dune, That's great. And I would agree with him that this is not the perfect movie for CGI. I do think Dune was better. So he's kind of right there. I'm okay with this criticism. This is good criticism.
Which is weird for a Marvel movie, which is known for their big CGI fights and all that. You'd think it'd be super clean, but it definitely isn't at points here. That's not to say that the movie looks bad, because like I said, I love the space shit. And when they're doing all the space shit and all of the space powers, celestials and gods, and showcasing all that, it looks magnificent. It looks fucking great. I love the visuals there. But their fights can get kind of rough. And there's one bad guy in particular who's a real goofy villain, probably one of the worst villains in the MCU. Doesn't even have a name, but he's like the main person that they keep clashing against, and he's completely nameless, and he's not very cool either.
Okay, so this criticism is probably like a weak villain. I'm not going to go into any type of spoiler here, but what I'm going to say is wrestling logic. You have this power level, right? Think of Dragon Ball Z same way. This power level, okay? And then you have a guy, this power level. Okay, now this weak power level is trying to get up to the good guy, right? So he's trying to like power up like Pac-Man, just eat other things and raise up, right? This is like story wrestling. This is just like story writing, okay? Bad guy wants to be better than good guy, so he trains to get better. Boom, 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 okay? Which makes this guy have to get better, boom, 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 to beat that guy and to grow even higher to get to the main villain who comes in later. This is story writing. So if this criticism is saying a weak villain, I can't necessarily agree with that. And I can't necessarily provide you with the reasoning for it because I respect the movie too much to spoil. So I will leave it that I disagree with his criticism of weak villain, if that is what his criticism is going to be.
He's not as bad as Black Widow's villain, whose superpower was he's stinky, so when you smell him, you can't hurt him. Spoiler alert, but he's not as bad as that guy. Smell him, Black Widow. He's not very cool either. He's not as bad as Black Widow's villain, whose superpower was he's stinky, so when you smell him, you can't hurt him.
Oh. Look. Black Widow, yeah, that was, it's whatever. Whatever. Yeah. But that's my point, where I feel like Eternals is a far superior movie to well over half of the other Marvel movies. Like Ant-Man, Ant-Man 2, probably even Quantumania. Thor 1, in my opinion. Thor 2, in my opinion. I liked Ragnarok, so I'll keep that kind of up there. Maybe one day I'll do a tier list of all the Marvel movies. But Eternals is very, very good. It made me almost cry. An Indian man talking about gratefulness for being a human almost made me cry. I got emotional in that theater. So, let's continue.
Spoiler alert, but he's not as bad as that guy, but he's still...
Oh, but Black Widow, okay, yeah, that was goofy. But this, Eternals, I don't know if you could equate it to the same type of thing. I completely disagree.
Pretty silly. Anyway, I'm already getting like way off course. Like I said, I like the ideas of the movie. The main Eternals, they're living on Earth for 7,000 years now after their mission, and you know they're viewed as gods. They're not really hiding anything, so throughout history, the gods are basically structured around the actual Eternals, and that's a cool thing to explore, so you get to see them going through history, doing some shit and influencing some things. But just overall, it wasn't super engaging. I wouldn't say it's boring by any means, because I think the characters had good chemistry, so even when they're just like bantering, which is classic Marvel formula, it's still enjoyable to listen to them. I think they all work together well. But it just wasn't like I wasn't like really invested, and I think that's mainly because like the things they're fighting are just
okay. So he says he's not very invested, and again, I'm gonna go into like comparisons to Guardians of the Galaxy, Game of Thrones before the season 1 finale, right? The Sopranos, like all of these TV shows, their first pilots, like of course, it wasn't engaging. You don't know any of these people, and you're expecting a Marvel movie. You're expecting Nick Fury. You're expecting the people you know to be in this movie, and this is not that. So a lot of people with the criticism of this is not a Marvel movie, you're wrong. Sorry, you're wrong. What do we name the Fly? Fred the Fly. Get out of here, Fred. It's a dumb criticism. It's a silly criticism, and I just don't agree with it. So,
Mutant dogs. The deviants are just like these dog creatures that they just use golden glowing energy against. So they just
okay. So he's kind of getting into some spoilery stuff. So I'm just gonna kind of like let it go. I mean, it's in the trailer, but I don't want him to like keep saying stuff.
But are like humans? I don't know. It's like you can only hear that conversation so many times. Humans action. It's them discussing the deviants and like humans. Do we like them? We like them. But are they worth liking? I don't know. It's like you can only hear that conversation so many times.
Okay, so interesting. So he has, I think this is an okay criticism. If you don't like that type of storytelling, you're not going to like it. Okay, fine. But I just don't think that that's like half of the people. I think a good majority of people are going to like this movie when more people go to see it. Unfortunately, I think less people are going to see it because of those shitty reviews, and those shitty reviews didn't like one specific scene in the movie of two men kissing. Wow. Oh my goodness, that's why. But they have no problems with any other type of craziness in their movies. They don't care about kids dying. They could give a shit less about anything else. But once this happens, that's a step too far. It's very, very strange. It's very, very weird. And because of all that, people negatively reviewed it, and I think it hurts this movie, and it's annoying. But this criticism of I didn't like the plot, I didn't like the story, because I've heard it before. Okay, that's fair. If you've heard it before and you thought that another story was fine, that's fair. That's a good criticism. I'm okay with that. But if it's like, it's woke. It's woke. There is more interracial people than white people. Like, that's shitty criticism. That's stupid. I don't want to hear it. So that's what I'm searching for here. Is there lapses in criticisms? So far, he's pretty on par with how his reviews typically go. He's a hard guy to impress. He has a very, very high threshold. And this is about what I expected him to say about Eternals. And a good majority of people who I'm seeing who are like reviewers, but not critical reviewers, are kind of like this, where they're like, I didn't hate it, I didn't love it. It was okay. I liked it, yeah. I liked some things, yeah. Like, they're kind of lukewarm to it. And I think once these characters start moving into the Marvel vein, then the investment's going to be there. And when he comes and returns to this origin movie, watches it again before Eternals 2 comes out or whatever, I think he's going to appreciate the movie at a higher level. Much like how we saw Age of Ultron get its appreciation after WandaVision, because they wanted to know more about Wanda and her origins, and then people started to like it way more. I think that's where this movie is headed. I think we're about done with Moist Critical. If you want to watch the rest of his videos, you absolutely can. He's a pretty solid guy.
But on a more positive note, I really like what the Eternals sets up. It introduces some really cool characters into the mix that I'm pretty excited to see explored throughout the rest of the MCU here. I like where it's going. I just feel like this movie wasn't a super fun ride to get there. I really don't have much else to say about this movie. Like, it's not even that I'm trying to avoid spoilers. It's just a very underwhelming MCU entry. I don't think it's a horrible movie by any means. I think it's fine on its own feet, but it's just not a movie where you're going to be excited. And you'd probably forget the characters' names by the end of it if they weren't named after gods.
Perhaps. I don't know. I usually am real bad at names. But my goodness, I know all these people's names. All of these people's names. Okay, so let's move on. Let's do this one now. Now, this guy is a critic. Oh, it's only 8 minutes. Usually his videos are longer, but this is pretty solid.
Back in theaters once again with its latest movie.
Okay, so now this is Dan Murrell. He's more of a critic. Let's see what he has to say. So mostly I'm okay with Moist Critical's review. And that's not what I see on Twitter. Like, what I see on Twitter and in the comment sections of YouTube videos is like, it's too woke, stupid, didn't like it ever, nothing, didn't like any of it. And it's like, what are you on about? Fred, get out of here. Come on now.
Movie Eternals, which is a fitting name because it feels like it lasts forever.
Okay, so this is, I think, another criticism that he's gonna kind of weigh anchor to the most is that there's a lot of slow downtime in this. Hopefully this is Dan Murrell. I'm hoping he brings up Chloe Zhao. I'm hoping he brings up Nomadland. I think he will. And Frances McDormand, who played that, like the characters that Chloe Zhao is used to dealing with are very, lone wolf, drama, dark characters. So we'll see if that gets brought up. I think it will because it's Dan, but it's a fair criticism. If you go to a Marvel movie, you're expecting a certain bit of laugh. You're expecting, you're not expecting the glum and the big world thinking. You're expecting more of a kind of enclosed thing. But this movie is not that. This movie is a bit mind-blowing and very big in scope, and takes a long time to tell. But I remember 2 weeks ago, Dan, watching your video. I did watch it, and about Dune, you had no such quarrels. You said it's not a complete movie, but it's fine. And I was like, okay. Was it too long, Dan? Let's see what he says.
Hello everybody, my name is Dan Murrell here with my review of the latest MCU film, Eternals, which is hitting theaters after many, many delays. It's the third MCU film that we're getting this year, the second one that's released exclusively into theaters following Shang-Chi and The Legend of the Ten Rings, which is the #1 movie of 2021 domestically so far.
I am curious if this is going to beat it. I will be looking very closely, and maybe even on the next Profit Report right when we start. Maybe I'll even bring it up because I'm very curious about the weekend box office of this Eternals movie. There was a lot of showings. There was a lot of plugging of this movie. Very anticipated. And there were a lot of people in the showing that I went to. The main house was sold out. The 3D ones were relatively full. And then we went to the smaller showings. And those were pretty full as well. So I'm curious to see how many people actually defy these bad reviews, go to the movie, see it, and then come out of it enjoying it. I'm super curious. Super curious.
Eternals is directed by Oscar-winning director Chloe Zhao. This was not the original plan. This movie was supposed to come out prior to her Academy Award wins, but with the pandemic being what it is now hitting theaters almost a year later. The movie's about beings called Eternals who have been on Earth for thousands of years, sent to protect humans from lethal beasts called deviants. They spent the last several centuries underground, but a new threat emerges that could destroy their adopted planet of Earth and everyone who lives on it. And they are not taking any time in building this superhero squad. This is a stacked cast starring Gemma Chan as Cersei, who can transform matter, Richard Madden as Icarus, who can fly and shoot beams from his eyes, Angelina Jolie as Thena, who's struggling to process thousands of years of memories, Salma Hayek as the leader of the Eternals, Ajak, Kumail Nanjiani as Eternal turned Bollywood superstar Kingo, Brian Tyree Henry as tech expert Fastos, Liam McHugh as the eternally young Sprite, Lauren Ridloff as the speedster Makari, Barry Keoghan as Druid, who can control others' thoughts and actions, Ma Dong-seok as super strong Gilgamesh, and Kit Harington as a guy named Dane, who has no superpowers to speak of. If that sounds like...
Okay, that's a huge cast. Big. So, again, I'm curious to see how he's grading this compared to Dune. My big contention with Dune, I feel no problem spoiling because it's been out for a while now. A lot of cast members who I was really excited to see in the franchise will not be in the franchise anymore because they're done, they're gone, they're killed off. They're killed off. Why? It feels like the studio, okay? Especially when the fans come and tell me, no, this was for the fans. They made this movie for the fans. They just did it for the fans. It's like, okay, maybe they did. but they also did it for money. Duncan, Idaho could have been played by any person. Any person. You did not need Aquaman, okay? They chose Aquaman because he sells tickets. Money. They put in Oscar Isaac as not King Leto. Whatever his title was. Leto. Duke? No, Governor Leto? Whatever his title was. And he's gone. And again, I go, I mean, good, you got Oscar Isaac, but you didn't need Oscar Isaac. So again, big cast, and they were used to kind of make money. Whereas, like, Eternals hedged its bets. It's like, no, I mean, we could get, like, Brad Pitt. I don't think we've had him yet, right? We could get Ben Stiller, right? We haven't had him yet. Kenan Thompson, haven't had him yet. Like, we could get some of these people. Or we go with some of these younger actors and actresses who are killing it on TV, right? The deaf chick in this movie, okay? Also in The Walking Dead, excellent in both, right? Druig, the white dude, he was saying, Barry Corrigan, I think his name is, I think was in, I think it was a British TV show on Netflix a couple years ago. So that's what I mean, is like these younger stars, and they're going to build them into stars. And I think that a lot of people are going to like this movie. I'm wondering what his criticism is going to be after this. Let's see. Listing all of those cast members.
Like a lot of characters to balance in one movie, it is. This isn't like one of the Avengers films or the earlier MCU entries where we've had time to meet these characters in previous films, and so they can kind of jump in and out of the story. The main story focuses largely around Icarus and Cersei, their love story with each other, and also their love story with the planet Earth, and then Salma Hayek's character of Ajak as we unwind her knowledge of the Eternals' missions on Earth. And then the other Eternals just kind of flit in and out of the movie. I actively forgot a few times that Angelina Jolie was even in this film because she would pop up for a couple minutes and then disappear for about 15 or 20 minutes. Kumail Nanjiani.
So again, like, I didn't hear this criticism of him at all for Dune. Again, like, I'm just like, I know it just doesn't click with you. But when your criticisms are different, right? Because you grew up playing or watching Dune, and you knew of it, although he said he didn't know of it. I don't know. I remember his review said he didn't know of it, so that, I guess that throws my theory out the window. I just think it's strange. I think it's very, very weird, right? It's very odd. The defense that Dune got made me very, very about people. Is like, I don't know if I could trust your opinion, but guess it doesn't matter anyway, huh? It's all just reviews.
He literally just walks out of the third act of the movie, and Brian Tyree Henry is introduced so late into the movie that I would have forgotten he was even in it if I hadn't seen that IKEA thing in the trailers 15 times before the movie came out.
What's this even made of? Vibranium? Fall collection. IKEA.
But Eternals is a bit of a paradox because it struggles to fit in all of the different characters, but it's also pretty dull. To me, it was mostly a succession of scenes where glum characters speak in glum tones, punctuated by the occasional attempt at comic relief by Kumail Nanjiani or Brian Tyree Henry, who were really doing their best to liven up the proceedings around here, but most of their jokes don't even land because they don't really seem to fit into the movie. You can
I think I disagree. I disagree here. I think I think Kumail Nanjiani was really, really, really funny. Like, I think most of his jokes landed. He's saying most of the jokes didn't land. That's very interesting to me, because I felt like he was by far the funniest thing of the movie, but not the only funny thing in the movie. A lot of these characters had really good lines, said really funny things, and most of it landed. I enjoyed myself so much in this film. Okay. If it didn't work for him, I guess it's a fair criticism. But I don't think that criticism will be shared by very many people.
can have different tones in a movie, and it's worked many times in and out of the MCU. It's just that this one is not particularly successful at doing it. The cast of this movie is theoretically charismatic. I've seen them have charisma in other TV shows and movies. However, in this film, I didn't really connect with any of these characters because they all act largely the same. It's an emotion that's kind of a mix between gravely concerned and vaguely detached.
So, to me, I agree with this. Most of the characters, most of the time, are very like regal, and they kind of have this Vision-esque way about them. So just keep that in mind. Like you're seeing like Vision-esque individuals here, who are just kind of all about what they're about, and that's it. And they're just doing a job. Yeah.
Some of them are allowed to have actual feelings, but that's usually punctuated by a somber examination of why they're feeling the feelings they feel, an examination that is often littered with mid-distance stares and seconds-long pauses between sentences. Eternals feels every second of its 2.5-hour runtime.
Oh no, is he gonna say something about the soundtrack?
And then some, far longer than Dune felt to me, even though Dune is a longer movie. And it's a weird twist of fate that this movie and Dune would happen to come out so close to each other, because I think they share a lot of similarities. They're both very epic in scope. They're also big kind of thinky sci-fi, and I like big thinky sci-fi. So it's not that long movies don't appeal to me. It's not that big-minded science fiction, fantasy type movies don't appeal to me, because many of them have in the past. It's just that a lot of this movie really just didn't work at all for me, and it's...
I'm okay. Now this, for me, I like that. Okay, yeah, as long as you're saying for me there, Dan.
It's a shame, too, because in many ways, this is a very unique movie in the MCU. The bubblegum look of a lot of past MCU movies is replaced by lush cinematography from Ben Davis, who's been the director of photography for other MCU films like Captain Marvel, Avengers Age of Ultron, and Guardians of the Galaxy. This movie looked amazing. Which I think proves that the samey quality of the look of many of the films in the Marvel Universe is as much branding as it is artistic vision. The movie also departs largely from the feel.
So did he, like, was his criticism there? There's like, you know, it's what Marvel does. So what? I don't understand how that's a criticism. Does it make it weird? What? They use it as branding, of course. What? That's the whole thing with what's his name, Villeneuve.
Of most, if not all, of the other MCU films. And there's a very important point that I want to make, which is that I didn't dislike Eternals because it was different. I disliked Eternals because it was dull. I've been saying for a long time that the MCU needs to shake things up, that they need to bring in a new feel and a new energy to their movies, because a lot of them were starting to feel the same to me.
Oh, okay.
And I still think that, but I can't give Eternals a pass just because it was different. I have to actually consider how the movie made me feel. Maybe the hope was that this somber tone would lend the movie gravitas and help to set Eternals apart.
I feel like this is where I just disagree. Whereas, like, when I watched Dune, I went, wow, that was technically amazing, cool. I wish the story was complete. Awesome, cool, good. But all the characters that went away in that movie, I didn't really care about, because they were only there for like half a movie. I was like, I don't even know who these people are. I don't care about them, right? So, and the main character in Dune, I didn't give a shit about it either. I just didn't connect. Whereas I feel like the opposite thing is happening here, where people aren't connecting with these characters, and I absolutely did. Multiple of them, actually. And it's so strange, people's different perspectives. It's interesting to me. But I get it. And that's okay if that's his perspective. I just think it's very, very strange. It's odd that you don't feel connection to this movie, but you felt a very heavy connection to Dune. That's very, very interesting to me.
from the other superhero teams in the franchise, but that didn't really work for me in that way. I also can't give the film a pass just because of the laudable casting, although that should absolutely be mentioned and commended because we have probably the most diverse representation as far as gender, sexuality, nationality, ability than any movie in the MCU, and maybe the most diverse and representational cast of any superhero movie ever. This fact shouldn't be overlooked, and it should be celebrated, and it should be replicated, but again, I can't give Eternals a pass just based on the outside of the film. It's the content of the film that matters, and this one just left me cold. It's obvious that Chloe Zhao wanted to bring something new to the Marvel Universe here, and I think that in a weird way, the worst thing for this movie was attaching the Marvel name to it, because really the attempts to tie this film back to the goings-on in the Marvel Universe are very obvious and very forced.
Obvious and forced. That's an interesting criticism. Yeah. I mean, I completely disagree, especially with what he was just saying. He was just like, well, Chloe Zhao wanted to bring something new, but then he's also saying that this shouldn't have Marvel attached to it because it's not very Marvel-y. So it's like, well, what did you want, Dan? Did you want a new movie that's not very Marvel-y, where they introduce something that's not very Marvel-y into the Marvel movies because you're sick of seeing the same old Marvel movie? Or did you want it to be more Marvel-y? What do you want? What do you want?
So now that Captain Rogers and Iron Man are both gone, who do you think's gonna lead the Avengers?
I could lead them.
Eternals longs to exist outside of this franchise.
It's so weird. Like, it wants to exist outside this franchise.
And should have been given the license to be as trippy and heady and sci-fi as it wanted to be. As it is now, I think we get a weird mix of Marvel and metaphysics. Obviously, opinions can change over time, but as I sit here somewhat fresh out of seeing Eternals, this is currently my least favorite film in the MCU, and it really sucks to say that because it's also one of the most, if not the most, ambitious films that Marvel's ever made.
It is definitely not the worst film in the MCU, sir. Wow. That's, again, this is a criticism I go, bullshit, fuck you. Fuck you. Thor Dark World. Okay? Like, there's a lot of bad MCU movies, and not all of them I've seen. I remember watching Ant-Man, I didn't like it, it wasn't my favorite. I liked the character, and I like where it eventually went, but, like, I hated that movie. I was like, oh my god, it feels like a children's movie, like a Beethoven movie, but with a superhero. That's what it felt like. It was very childish, and I'm not very big on childish. I like big, kind of serious storytelling, right? So it just make me I didn't like Thor, the first one. I was not a fan of the first Avengers, but I feel like I've watched it more recently and I liked it a little bit more. But to say that the Eternals is the worst is, to me,
Should Eternals underperform, I worry that the message that's going to be taken by Marvel is not to take any more chances like this and return to a more formulaic approach. And I don't think that's the right decision either. A franchise that's been running as long as the Marvel Cinematic
So then what's
Universe
the right
has
decision?
desperately needs to be refreshed with new and exciting ideas. And
New and exciting ideas.
even though this attempt didn't land for me, I still think that Marvel should be taking risks and trying new things. I hope that Marvel has the ambition and the guts to make more movies like Eternals in the future. I just also hope that I'm going to like those movies more than I enjoyed this one. So those are my thoughts on Eternals. Obviously not a recommendation for me, but it does seem like reaction to this are kind of running the gamut. Perhaps this is your Dune in the sense that you're going to go and see it and love it and see people like me talking about how dull it is and thinking, well, what was wrong with that person? What did
He's calling me out. That's what I'm doing right now.
they see or not see in this movie that I did? That's what I love about movies. We all react to them differently. However,
Good guy,
not a big
Dan.
reaction for me on this one. It was a pretty big miss for the MCU. But what did you think? Did you get everything you wanted out of the film? Did it leave you wanting more? Let me know down in the comments below. And as always, you can also...
Okay, I'm excited. Well, let's go to the comments. Let's see what the comments say. Because a lot of the comments is what I've seen is pretty bad. I personally enjoyed the movie, but I agree that it was really held back by its connection to the MCU. But let's be honest, Carter's the best on-screen realization of a speedster we've ever got. Yeah. And I don't know if I can go back to watching Ezra Miller's grotesque running after this. Yes. Okay, this movie does Justice League better than Justice League. Either version. Snyder Cut or no. This movie does the X-Men better than the X-Men has ever done it. Maybe except for the first 2 movies. Because I really like those movies a lot. So I'd have to go back and kind of revisit them. And I'm not a big fan of the new X-Men movies, with Mystique being like the good person, like the general good person. It's like, what? It's dumb. So, yeah, this movie slayed. Okay, go see it. I personally think it would be better as a TV show, so they could have more time to develop these characters. Look at Justice League. There were only 6 main characters, yet they failed to explain the background story of only 4 of them. Zack Snyder managed to fix it, but it was in a 4-hour-long movie. So, I mean, I don't know what history you need to know. Again, we'd have to go into spoilers for that, but I felt like the characters were pretty well described. This is one I just don't align with Dan on. I'd heard the reviews saying it was boring and the pacing was bad, but I checked my watch 2 hours in. Not because I was bored, but because I felt like we had reached the 3rd act, and yet it didn't feel like much time had gone by. This came close to Shang-Chi for me, and I get the feeling it is because it didn't follow the Marvel formula. Okay. I actually did feel the runtime. I was like, yeah, this movie's a little long. There's a few things that you could probably prune out of this and really just tighten it up. But I felt that. Even I felt that, right? But I agree that I enjoyed myself thoroughly the entire time, whether it was the drama or no, the action. It was very, very interesting. Saw it last night. Don't know what critics saw. Yeah, it's messy structurally and can bog down at times, but overall was a great sci-fi think piece for me. Yes, really enjoyed the characters. A think piece, yeah. Me and my friend Panabi Mikey, who's streaming right now, and if you like watching Smite, and those are your games, then you should go over there, because he's doing that now. I agree with everything Dan said, except that the end result adds up to dull and overly long. I enjoyed seeing Marvel take chances with something new. It didn't work, but enough did that I liked the direction and can see this as a blueprint, if not a formula. But again, it's just so weird. I didn't like it. It just didn't land for me. I didn't like it. But I like it. But I like where it's going. That's a weird criticism. I'm really surprised you were as down as you are on this one. I felt the film had some same minor issues as most MCU films. Rushed pace in the 3rd act, some oddly edited ADR explosions, but on the whole, I really, really enjoyed the change of pace for the MCU that this offered. I think the CGI was better than Shang-Chi. The scope, both astronomically and emotionally, was both grand and engaging. I felt very different than you about the jokes. Yeah, I think it was very, very funny. And the balance of the cast. I thought the humor was very good, and it didn't mind it being more understanding its level of quippiness in the MCU standard. And I didn't have any issue keeping track of the characters. Me either. Your comment on forgetting Angelina Jolie was in the movie, yeah, that's nonsense. Yeah, I mean, she's a supporting character, but you remember her. I can agree with him forgetting the speedster girl and Droog, the dude who can mind control people, but you can't forget Angelina Jolie's in this movie. Come on now. She's a better Wonder Woman than Wonder Woman. Sorry, it's true. I think I'm only gonna watch like one more. I loved this movie. It didn't feel long at all. I would have gladly watched another hour. It was beautifully shot. It teased several awesome things coming down the pike in the MCU, and I found myself smiled during several scenes. I even smiled during the credits, listening to a group of girls sitting next to me happily discussing the movie as if it was the first MCU film they ever saw. Yeah, there was a lot of discussion about this movie in the parking lot with me and Panabi Mikey. I loved seeing others as excited as I am about Marvel movies. I was never bored with this, and I was very satisfied. Again, like, I'm a big wrestling fan. Okay, we're going to talk about wrestling here in a minute. And this movie felt like a wrestling movie, right? Where you get characters, and some of them are feuding and rivaling, and then some of them they build to like a big fight, right? And that's what this movie felt like to me. It was a really, really good build to a fight. Okay, so I don't really have a problem with Dan's I don't really have a problem with Dan's criticisms, except for the too long and that it wasn't funny. A few of those I was like, But critically, if it didn't land with him like that, it didn't land with him like that. There's been plenty of movies that are critically acclaimed that I just don't like and I think are really overrated. Like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, that movie, I hated that movie. It was boring. But a lot of people liked it. A lot of people loved it. It just didn't land with me, right? Even though it was technically beautiful, acted well, the story was interesting, it just didn't land with me. So I get that. I understand that sentiment. But then, like, going in and saying, well, the CGI wasn't good. It's like, oh, it was better than Shang-Chi, you know? I remember you criticizing that. So, like, there's a few things like that I just like to be on the watch for. And I'm glad that we went through that and said our piece, because Eternals deserves to be seen. It deserves to be defended. And I think it's pretty much your next Guardians of the Galaxy. What people are saying now about these characters, I think once they are in the main timeline and with some characters we know, we're gonna be very, very happy. We're gonna be very, very happy. But we'll see. All right, let's move into the next portion here. Very